Hey guys, welcome to The Identity Shift. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Identity Shift. And of course, I'm your girl Tia Upshaw, and today I have with me is Keith Gelhorn. Hey Keith, how are you?
I'm doing awesome. How about yourself?
I'm good. As I said to you a little while ago, it's been a long time since I've seen you. I used to see you at so many different networking events, so many spaces. And I remember the first time I seen you, I was like, who is this big guy? Like, if you guys don't know Keith, he's like, what, 6'3"?
6'7".
Like 6'7".
Yeah.
And I'm like, who is this guy? And then people started mentioning your name. And then I said, let me dig into him on LinkedIn. And you're definitely a force to be reckoned with. And Keith is your founder, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Founder, owner, CEO, operator, all the things above with, a business called Advocacy, but the way it's spelled is ADDvocacy, as you guys can see in the background. And one thing about Keith, he does specialize in executive function coaching. And I really think that if anybody's going to be listening to this today at the end, and if you're dealing with any neurodivergent issues, any ADHD, ADD, defined disorder, any of on the spectrum, you're going to want to reach out to Keith, especially if you're a student, because after you listen to this conversation, you're going to be blown away.
Yeah.
So, Keith, again, thank you for joining us. If you want to tell our listeners and our viewers a little bit about you, a little bit more that I didn't capture, that would be great.
Okay. Well, I'll just start kind of at the beginning, and I'll fast track it so I don't use up too much time. But the long and the short is I'm originally from British Columbia, and I was adopted into a family full of high achievers. So my dad's an accountant, my mom's a nurse, my sister has a PhD in behavioral genetics, trying to figure out why she turned out the way she did, and I turned out the way I did with the same upbringing. So for her, life came easy. Straight A student, all-star athlete, straight into university, and she's now a vice president of a pharmaceutical company down in the States, owns like 50 million in real estate. Just nailed it. And as I was growing up, I remember one conversation with my parents when I just squeaked through high school. How's Heather doing? Oh, I just got into university and this, that, the next thing. How's Keith doing? Well, he's selling paint at Sears, right? And that kind of sums up my childhood. I struggled in every level of school. I had my principal tell me in grade 12 that it didn't matter what I did in life, I'd always be a failure. Went off to college. Had a bunch of undiagnosed stuff, and I struggled through college like a lot of us do who are undiagnosed. By the time I got through 6 years of that, I was told I wanted to be a social worker, and I was based on my grades that I'd never succeed in academia. Go get a trade. The plumbers made good money, and didn't want to be a plumber because I am 6'7" and sitting under somebody's sink.
Getting underneath that sink would be terrible.
No, not great, but fast forward 4 years, I had a unfortunate incident, some medical issues that put me off work for a year, and I was like watching everybody dust me, right? Everybody was getting married, having kids, had the house and the cars and everything else, and I'm sitting at my parents' house being waited on because I can't get out of bed for a year. And so I was like, man, I got to do something. And so I went into a trades-related program. First company that phoned me back happened to be a plumbing company. I'm like, whatever, I'll just do it.
Let's go with it.
So I went with it, and I did really well because it was hands-on. It was a different kind of learning. And I rocketed through my 4-year apprenticeship. I actually came out of there with, I think, like a 93% average. Not based on my grades from school, but it was more so like that hands-on learning. Anyways, everything's going great. I get my tickets. I moved to Kelowna. I was promised 5 years worth of work. And then 2008 hits, and my company went from 77 of us to 4 in 6 months, and I'm the last guy cut. So after I get cut, I got diagnosed immediately with anxiety and depression. I'm like, well, obviously, man.
Look what just happened.
But I started describing some symptoms. So some of the symptoms I had was I get easily frustrated. I was very impulsive. And the big one that was caused me the most amount of pain is that I hated the top-down approach. So I hated people telling me what to do. If I didn't listen to them, tell them what to do. I wouldn't know what to do either,
Yeah.
but I had a bunch of road rage issues, and that's where it was coming out. So I was like 99% of the time, the nicest guy I ever meet. 1% of the time, I'm an asshole, and I don't know how to get around
That.
not being that guy. And they said, "Oh, I think you have ADHD," and I'm like, "Nah, those are kids that are bouncing off the walls, not me." Gave me a little book, said, I'm not stupid, lazy, or crazy." Read that, and started doing a bunch of counseling, and I was very fortunate. So I had something called oppositional defiant disorder, which
Disorder.
is
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
the ODD. So a lot of things that go along with ADHD is our inability to have people micromanage us,
You
right?
can't do it. You
And,
can't.
yeah, you do what you can. So if somebody tell me what to do, I tell him where to go and to F off, essentially, to beat it. And then there's another factor. I tell you, or you tell me what to do. I tell where to go and how to get there, and then I punch you in the face. Luckily, I didn't ever go down that route, right? But I had this ODD side, and so as soon as I found out about it and got into the mental health system, I got in for, luckily out there you get 10 sessions. Out here in Nova Scotia, you're lucky if you get 3. But on session 9, they were going to kick me out. And I said, "I'm not leaving." And I said, "What do I got to do to stay?" And said, "Oh, you got to be suicidal." I'm like, "Give me the phone. I'll tell a story." Right? So, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna drive my car, hit a bus and off the bridge." And, "Oh, it sounds like you stay." I'm like, "Great." Hang up the phone, and I stayed and worked with this clinical social worker, same day, same time, every week for 2.5 years. And as I was going through the process with the social worker, there was a big piece that was missing. And while she could sympathize, she couldn't empathize with the roller coaster that guys like me experience. And I said, I want to find somebody like me that I can talk to, that I can just shoot the shit with, excuse my language,
Absolutely.
if that's okay, that I could relate to. And there was nobody to do it. And she's like, "You should start that yourself, Keith." And she helped me. She encouraged me. So this,
Shout out to her.
yeah, coming out of this clinical system saying, "Hey, there is a place for you, and I'm going to support you getting there." So I moved out to Nova Scotia to go back to school. I'm like, nobody's going to take me serious as a plumber if I get back into this. And, the world's hung up on these credentials. And while I do have a lot of credentials, I got a PhD in plumbing, heating, and drainage, by the way. But while I have the credentials, I wanted to just make it more official. So I moved out here and went to NSCC and started running a support group for students and for around ADHD. And then I realized all of us have mental health stuff too. So I brought in Canadian Mental Health Association. First time they'd ever brought an outside organization in to facilitate the mental health stuff. And after 4 months, I got my first client through Dalhousie University. The person didn't need they didn't need a tutor. They didn't need somebody to go into a time management course. They wanted somebody who actually got it, and they threatened a human rights thing if they didn't find it. So they happened to land on me. I got her from a 73 average to a 87% average in whatever it was, in 6 weeks. The next year I took 10 60 students. I got them from 60s to 80s and 90s, and they were winning awards. And by the end of it, I got permission. So in my last semester, I got permission to coach at every post-secondary institution in Nova Scotia. Then I realized that all of them were struggling because now I had 10 students and they were all freaking out about the career transition piece. So then I hooked them all up with Nova Scotia Works. They hired me back because they also didn't know, because I had all the background with them.
Yeah.
So they hired me to continue on to support them into the career transition piece. I also started to work with, a lot of them are entrepreneurial too, because most of us, and Tia, I know you can relate, we're like 400 times more likely to be self-employed than our neurotypical counterparts because of we can see different ways to do things that other people
You
can't.
can't.
And we can't sit in a top-down sheep herd environment because we're the front runners, right? Leading ways to do things. So anyways, I've been at that now for 12 and a half years. I run a 100% neurodivergent team. All of us are well educated in our various areas, but what I always try to do is I try to find not just your credentials, but what is your life experience. So like the way I hire is I throw your cover letter in the garbage because I know you just made that up or wrote it using AI, and write me a story, tell me a story, do a collage. I don't even care what it is, but I want to hear about where you struggled,
I love
how
it.
you got through it, and how you can come back and help other people. And we got like some of the most amazing people that can come back and help you, and we always try to match as close to that persona as possible. So
Oh, I love that hiring practice. I'm in the process right now of hiring a new executive assistant because mine is going back to her home country in October. And it just clicked in my head. Yes, I've gotten cover letters and resumes, but I think a part of the interview process is I want them to do me a one pager of what is a biggest setback or situation you had. How did you deal with it? And if it happens again or something else happens similar, how are you going to come out of it? Because I need to see the resilience of
exactly,
what you bring to the table. Thank you, Keith.
exactly.
Oh my goodness.
Sharing is caring.
Yeah, I love
Yeah,
getting the ideas. And I just want to say, you have a PhD in plumbing. I have a PhD in life.
in
I have
life,
a PhD in life. Like,
exactly.
lived experiences, I said this to you earlier, trumps, in my opinion, academia.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that have PhDs and masters
Hmm.
in business. I know people who have their masters in entrepreneurship now,
Yep.
and they still can't tell me what the terminology is around unique value proposition. They
Exactly.
still cannot articulate certain things. They still cannot have the guts and the glory and get out there and do things. So for me,
Yeah.
I'll take the PhD in life lived experiences because
Yes.
it's gotten me thus far, and I know you can agree with yourself because it's gotten you this far.
Yeah. It's 100%. It's it. And I always find it funny when people go to this credentialed piece, right? It's like, well, so you're telling me that somebody got a master's in 1994 knows more than somebody like me and that's the interesting thing about entrepreneurs. Like we hyper focus on things, right?
We
Like I
do,
know you're in terms of black excellence, and
yeah.
like you've got a laser focused niche, right? I do too. Neurodiversity's mine. I don't go flipping all out, even though there's like we were talking earlier about the DEI stuff, diversity, equity, inclusion. I was talking to somebody the other day in an indigenous organization, and she was wondering, like, should I invite everybody, or should I just invite the people who are neurodivergent? I was like, of course you invite everybody. Do you invite everybody to your DEI stuff? And like, oh yeah, no problem, right? Well, why wouldn't you invite them to this? Because even in the very classic form of neurodiversity, people think about ADHD and autism. Those are the two big ones. But
Yeah.
honestly, it's anybody who thinks a little differently. So that includes mental health. That includes uh, like perfectionist procrastinators, like
Oh, literally entrepreneurs. Like
entrepreneurs. Exactly.
literally,
Exactly. Every entrepreneur out there, we do think a little differently
we do.
because I know when I used to work at Seed, I had a contract supporting people in the self-employment benefits program for years.
Yeah,
And when I went in and this is when Missy was there, actually, Missy Searle. I know she's your buddy, mine
she
too.
is.
And she was a champion, me too. But I went in and it was all like, lawyer, accountant, whatever, all down the line. And I just walked in. Is anybody in here just can't work for anybody else like me? Right. And 17 out of the 30 of them raised their hands. And I said, can I talk to you guys in another room and just say, like, what's the deal? Right. They openly did it. And we're talking in the other room, and I said, like, why are you here? It was like bullying in the workplace. You feel like you don't fit in, all kinds of mental health stuff. And we're just not suited for an 8:30 to 5:30 mindset.
Yeah.
And being that, and it's like I always say, to like being in an office to me is feels like being in jail. Same like being in a classroom. It's a means to an end, so you can go out and get to do what you're
Yeah.
meant to do, right? And it's not that I don't support that piece. Like everybody's got their own piece in the puzzle, right? But you also have to develop your own autonomy and
Absolutely.
understand
Absolutely.
where you're coming from moving forward. So
And I love how you stay in your lane. You said that earlier to me, and you said it again. And
yeah,
I'm the same way. People will ask me all the time, can I speak at a conference or an event about DEI? And I'm like, no,
no,
that is not something that I want to
don't
get
need to.
into.
Nope.
Um, I can talk about being an entrepreneur as a black woman in Nova Scotia, but
Absolutely.
the DEI space is not for me. There's enough
Nope.
people doing it, and I'm okay.
Yep.
I'm going to stay in my lane. And
Yep.
it works because no one else in Atlantic Canada is in the lane I'm in. I'm the only
No.
black woman, dominating the industry around entrepreneurship and advocating for other black women.
Absolutely. No, I see you from, like, that's the thing. When I reached out to you, right, I said, I know I'm not quite your demographic.
And I said to you, that's okay. Let's
I'm a big
chat.
white guy, but we can still chat. And that's the other piece about that I love about neurodiversity as a whole. And this is actually a big project that I'm working on. It's a long-term project, but I'm currently working it's called the ADHD road trip. And I literally went and bought myself a little tiny home on wheels, got a map of Canada with my roller coaster, and it goes off into my little truck traveling across Canada. I had one of my clients actually who's on the spectrum, who was the first person ever who's been able to take an idea out of my head and make it visual. Because I'm a stick figure person. This person like took it right out, put it on the side of the van, and I started traveling around with that. So I got inspired actually by Vanessa Burns, as I said
Yeah.
earlier, who I've known for years. We used to go hiking together, and she's into the grant writing, and she's shiny like me, and so.
Yeah.
And I phoned her out and I said, "Man, I'm so impressed, and this is what I love, and I always do it genuinely. I love people being successful." And Vanessa, started getting out, traveling around, getting outside of Halifax, and really started making a name for herself. And I was like, man, I used to do that when I first,
Back to it.
yeah, when I first started. When I was in school and they said you have to go to a placement, they said you're going to work in a community workshop or in a group home. I said, no, I'm not. I'm getting my car and I'm going to drive around to every. I did the entire coast of Nova Scotia. I went to all the universities, the colleges, the nonprofits, the businesses, so people would actually get to know that I'm a real person, not just a social media, video maker, and or whatever it is. But she inspired me to do that. She also started showing up on camera, which I know you're huge on too. And
Yeah, of course.
I know, and that was another thing. I was like, well, you got to be like, I kept trying to get my younger coaches, like they got to go because they're like, they're younger and more relatable and everything else, but they didn't want to do it, right? And so I started making my own TikToks inspired by you and Vanessa, and I'm like, people are watching this stuff,
They
right?
are.
And
They are.
yeah,
This is what I love
yeah,
about taking a leap of faith and just doing something.
this is it.
Someone's watching. And if I listen to people say, "Oh, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that," there's no one paying attention. I wouldn't be able to have impact. I wouldn't be able to inspire anybody.
Exactly.
And I'm so glad that you're out there now and you're on social media. And just because your team who are younger,
Yeah.
they're younger doesn't mean they want to do it. And
Nope.
sometimes you have to do it because you're the CEO, you're the boss, and you're the face of
Exactly.
your business. And
Exactly.
people want to hear from Keith.
Yes, exactly. It's
Honestly, I don't think I would watch your staff or your team,
yeah,
but I would definitely listen to what Keith has to say because you are the face of the business.
yeah, and that's the thing. So one of the things that's always been a challenge, and this is not atypical for a
Yeah,
lot of us. I saw it all the time when I was, or when I do coach entrepreneurs, that a lot of them don't want to be the face. They don't want to
yeah.
sell. They don't want to come across as pushy. And I was like, I've had a business 12 and a half years. Have I had ups and downs? No, no question. Yes, I have. I've had some
I'm
hard
still
times,
having them.
and I'm still having them. But I, the authenticity is what everybody keeps saying is like you show up and you talk about the shit that goes up and down. I know you do the
Absolutely.
exact same thing. That's what I love about you too, is that we talk about the downs as much as the ups. And what I always hated, part of the reason why, like I used to do tons of networking, and I am getting back out. I've made that
Priority.
commitment to myself priority. You'll see me out a lot more again. But I started going out and I was talking to the same people and everybody was trying to sell me something, right? They were
Ah,
like, making quick talk and then here's my business card, right? And when I used to go, I was like, as soon as they asked me about me, I'd flip it back on them. And this is a strategy. And I know you do stuff around networking, but a strategy was like, I could go on. I'm a big talker, and I'm proving it right now. But if I ask you a question and I listen to your story and find something that I could potentially bind to with your story, then we've got
You nail them.
then we've got a connection, right? And I'm not here to sell you anything. And honestly, I should say not here to sell you anything, but I'm here to build a community with people, right? I want to build the network of genuine connections, not just fill a Rolodex or where people like, say, well, I have 500,000 people or 500,000 likes on TikTok. Well, how many of them actually come to you to do anything? Like, are they liking you because you're
Engage with
doing
you.
funny, stupid stuff, or are they coming to you
Right.
because you actually have some value to bring? And that's the piece that I'm very cognizant of. And like even yesterday, I had a guy reach out to me after 10 years, just out of the blue. Right, is one of my old clients from 10 years ago. He's back in school. Hey man, do you know any AI that I could use to help me with studying? And I was like, yes, I do. But remember, man, when I helped you get through it, it's a tool, but don't rely on it.
Don't rely
Right?
on it.
Like, and that's the other piece is like there is no easy way out. There's like entrepreneurship or working world, whatever. There's no quick fix. And if you
Yeah.
keep searching for the next quick fix, you're gonna find the quick fall in your ass.
Yeah, because that's all you're doing is
Yeah,
looking for the next quick
all you're
fix. You
doing.
need to find strategies. You
Yeah,
need to
that's
figure out
gonna
how
work.
you can navigate through. And your networking technique is spot on because I use it. The only
Hmm.
difference is, yes, I want to build meaningful connections and have longevity in my relationship,
Yeah.
but I want those longevities and those relationships and impact and all that stuff to equal to a profit.
Yes.
So for me, it's like, I will do what you do.
Yep.
And before they even have a chance to even ask me for anything, I want to hear their story and I'll be able to say, it's interesting that you just mentioned this because, my brand, like what I do, my coaching, my mentorship, and my
Hmm.
consulting, we cover different aspects. Let's do a quick discovery call. Here's my
Inside.
card,
Yeah.
here's my LinkedIn, let's jump on a call.
Yeah.
So we do the same thing.
Yeah.
We're just going to get Keith over on the other side to take them engagements and TikToks over to being profitable.
Yes. Yeah, and it's funny because we I was just talking about that with you, or with you. That's the one thing I do appreciate, right? And being a big-hearted guy, I
You
I
are.
I genuinely am, and I genuinely care about each and every person, right? And I like the guy that reached out yesterday. I sat and had a chat with him, right? I will sit down and have a talk, right? And not expect something like immediately to come out of it. But by the end of it, he was
Something always
like,
does.
he's
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna hire you because you didn't try to sell me. It's like that's kind of the thing, right? You don't all selling
You have
comes
to
in.
read the room. You have to read the
Exactly. It comes in
person.
different avenues, right? To get you where you need to be. But anyways.
Well, since we're talking about everything along the lines of what you do without even saying exactly what you do, Keith,
Hmm.
what are some of the services like we know, well, I know that you
Hmm.
deal with coaching for
Sure.
neurodivergent youth, adults, ADHD, learning disabilities, ADD,
Hmm.
anxiety, depression,
Hmm.
oh my God, mental health challenges straight across the
Hmm.
board. What are some of your services, or what are your few of your core services that people could really utilize and benefit from?
So we deal with ADHD through the lifespan, and we
Wow.
have different departments that deal with each one, right? So typically, the youngest we'll go is high school students, usually grade 12 and up. I'll take the occasional grade 11
Yeah.
if the student is super motivated. It's not like there's a lot of parents out there that want their kids to have everything, but we coach the students. We're not coaching the parents, right? We're working with them to build their own autonomy so they feel confident to go out and do their thing. So we deal with high school students. We do a lot of work around post-secondary transition, just trying to
Hmm.
figure out what the options are. College and university may not be the only, like it's not the only option. There's college, university, trade school, going out and working. Like when I did my trades, I didn't go to NSCC for 2 years. I went and found an employer and hired me. I did my six, or what is it? Yeah, 8 weeks, 6 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, done. Right, exactly 4 years, and I was out working. Right. So we do that part of the navigation. We coach people right through. So we meet with students. It's typically same. We meet with them same day, same time every week for the duration of their program, or as minimum of semester at a time. Most students just decide to stay. Right, our most successful students will continue on with us. We do it with college, university, and trade students. Okay. Actually, I'll just mention one thing for the trade stuff. This is a new fund through CCRW. I got to give a shout out to them. They have federal funding right across Canada, and if you are a tradesperson and struggling with any sort of disability, whether it's neurodiversity or physical challenges, they will do whatever it takes to support you in getting through your blocks. Because currently, they have about 30% of people that go to try to complete aren't getting through their blocks, which means you're not continuing on. And this is a shame. For just because you can't sit in the classroom doesn't mean you can't be successful. When I was a plumber, actually, one of my best foreman, he had a grade 2 education. He couldn't read, write, couldn't do any of that, right? But what he did was have a right-hand person, I worked right alongside him, to do that while he worked on what he was good at, right? So anyways, we help people get through that. On the employment side of things, I do employment coaching. So people that are looking to transition into careers, I help with career transition. I also work with businesses in general. So
yes, you do that a lot.
You do that a lot. So with businesses and organizations, what I'm getting a lot of actually lately is middle management in nonprofits that work in the or in the disability or people field, right? Nonprofits, and they're the middle managers who are struggling with their own ADHD. And it was funny, I did a recent workshop for one where they were trying to reach the lower employees, but when I did my presentation, this person was brave enough. She was the second from the top of the heap, came out and said, "Hey, I've got my own struggles." And I said, there's two ways of doing it. I could just work with you, but if I just work with you, nothing changes in terms of organizational systems, right? And this, thank you. and you probably did the same thing. I said, if you really want to make a change, let's start. I'll come in and do a workshop for everybody, right? So it's a general thing. And then you'll start seeing people. It's interactive, right? Because I tell them all my stories and get their stories. That's the interactive part. Then we'll sit down and do needs assessment for whoever wants to come forward, and it's customized to you, right? It's not, there's a million companies selling canned programs, right? But we want to create some long-lasting change, right? So I'll work with the managers. I'll work as high like the EDs or CEOs. Work with the managers and also work with employees. And if we all work together over a longer period of time, right, it's not like the short-term stuff that I do with the students because that's all putting out fires. We're looking at putting out some short-term fires, but really getting to the longer-term piece. And that's the areas of biggest interest to me. And I can speak on it. My favorite part is working with like trades people because I've been in that for my whole life.
For a long time, yeah.
Worked in the trades for 17 years. But then I also have 12 and a half years working the social service field as well, right? So I've got the two sides that are really kind of my niche areas. And one of the things I always find funny is that a lot of, like, you see all these organizations, they say, we need to help the employees. And one of the ones was, I was working with like Canadian Apprenticeship Forum, and they're doing a huge thing right now around neurodiversity in the trades, and said, we got to help the employees, and everything's employee. And I was like, you know what? Those same people that who do you think are the people that are running the companies, man? Those are the same people. Same with us, right? That we're not great at staying confined to a box. So it's the neurodivergent people that are going off and starting these companies. So if you just help the employees and you you ignore
You
the
know, you ignore the leaders, then
you
it
ignore the
comes back to the
leaders,
same
nothing's
situation.
going to change, and then you just have another checkbox and nothing will change. So that's really my piece, is like we got to
Refill
work together
checkbox.
from both ends, right? And I can talk to, I've been the employee and I've been the boss, and I know we've got to work together to bring the two together. So that's a huge interest. And I guess my biggest claim, not claim to fame, but the thing I am most proud of is that over the years, like I said, I run a 100% neurodivergent owned and operated company. I know what it's like to deal with emotions and like
Oh,
put out fires.
you're knee deep. And
Yeah,
I love
I'm
that
knee
you
deep.
can say 100% because you know, with the DEI landscape, they're going to ask you, oh, how many people on your team have mental health? How many people
Mm-hmm.
are female, male, or non-binary? How many
Mm-hmm.
people are cultural background? You don't
Yep.
even have to answer, like, you're
I don't
just
have to answer.
100% neurodivergent,
Yep.
and we work in the same field. So my whole team
Yep.
gets it, lived experiences, PhDs, master, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
We know what the fuck we're doing.
Yeah, we know what we're doing, and there's another piece to it too. So like, I have a huge interest in working with uh, indigenous and underserved populations.
Yeah.
Something about the indigenous stuff just kind of gets me because, like, I work with AppTech quite a bit, and a couple years ago, I was listening to one of the elders speak and talking about just how you feel like you're constantly an outsider in a world that you started, right? And
Yeah.
that's how I kind of feel, right? It's like 80% of the world's like this, and we're going like this around it, right? And I sat down with the lady and I said, well, I'm doing my talk next, and I said, I feel the synergy. I don't know what it is. I'm like the big white guy, but there's something about that population that just grabs me, right? And anyway, I've been putting a lot of focus on that side of the population, and what I'm interested in actually doing, and what I think is most effective, is that it's not for me to go in and train them. It's for me to go in and mentor somebody else that's already in the community,
That
mentor
makes sense.
them how to do it,
Yeah.
and then I'll be a support. But you know more. Like, who am I to say what's happened in
It's
member two?
true.
Right? I can't do it. It's same for me going into North Preston and saying, okay, well, if you're neurodivergent, do this. I don't know what it's like to be in
No,
there.
you don't. No, and that makes sense. So I'm glad that you take that
Yeah.
approach, and I think more people should actually look at that approach too. Um, that's yeah, I like that. You know, I'd rather work with someone who already is in the space and train them, and then they can,
Exactly.
you know, filter all that down through because they already have the relationship with their
Yeah.
community.
So and that's the big piece, right? So like I worked with a few indigenous organizations. So I'd start off with like the Mi'kmaq Friendship Center, and then AppTech, and then I started getting called, well, doing my own reach out to like the Indigenous Relations for DAL and NSCC and everything else. And I was like, are you guys accessing these grants, right, for accessibility services? And they're like, oh, none of that applies to us. And I was like, yeah, it does. It's for every Canadian. They're like, nope, no, it doesn't apply. And every single person said the same thing. So then I called up to the government and I said, does this apply or does it not? Like, why is it? Why are
Yeah.
yeah? Why are certain segments, and it would be the same for African Nova Scotians, the same thing, right? And they're like, oh no, yeah, yeah, they qualify. And I was like, well, are you going to tell them or am I?
Yeah,
Right? Like,
because your wording doesn't tell us that.
exactly, and that's another kind of gift that I have as well around like, if you've been dealt a deck of cards, which is out of your control, right? And when I say a deck of cards, whether it's a disability, because they're all categorizing, all right?
Yeah,
It's the government way of doing things. They're
it's so
categorizing us
true.
into little compartments. So if you've been dealt that and it's holding you back from getting ahead, we shouldn't have to pay out of pocket and do everything to be up to the same amount and be further marginalized, right? There are programs out there, and this is a gift that I have. So I don't go in. So when you're talking about funding, and I know you said you've done some stuff on funding, I don't go into those thinking like, how can I benefit? It's more like, how can I help you access that to hire me to help you? And
Absolutely.
that's just a little tip for all your audience is, don't look at it from your perspective, but how could that client access it? And I'm going to give one little tip on this, on a case study that of a somebody I was teaching this to. So one was the WIPSI grant, right? I don't know if you've heard about
Yeah.
WIPSI, but it's a big one. It's right across Canada. So this guy, I do a thing on the WIPSI about how to help people access it, right? So this guy had a $5,000 program that he was selling in Alberta. And I taught him about WIPSI, and you know, the first 10,000 is free, and the next 10,000 or up to $1,000,000, 50 cents on the dollar. So I was like, you know, you can do a like $20,000 program, but they only have 5 grand out of pocket, right? So he
Yeah.
takes that information. This is like kind of a just a sidebar thing that I was talking about. Takes the information, does his research, figures out WIPSI right across Canada, goes back to Alberta, and he goes back to his clients and he says, "Hey man, I got a new program, 20 grand." They're like, 20 grand? Everybody else is like 5 to 10. He's like, "What if I told you though that you could get it for $5,000 and I'll write the grant for you." Right? He contracted out somebody to deliver the program. He flew out, met the customers, took them golfing, like did his
All that
community
stuff.
building, all that stuff. And first year he did 100,000 off that. Second year he did 500,000, and he's in the 7 figures doing that. And that's like just a little tip to help people kind of figure out where to go. I just wanted to share
I
that.
used Whipsy when I first started this 16-week startup.
Yeah.
That's what I used, and I found it on the provincial government's website. I think it was under lamps. Lamps.
Yep, it's in under lamps. Yep.
And I found, I was like, what is this? And I
Yeah.
looked, and then, you know, I was in a space with a few different people from provincial government, and I met a nice gentleman named Alex Holmes and Margot Hampton. And once I met those two people, I realized Alex was the one you went to when it come to Whipsy. If you had any
Yep.
questions, then he can proofread your application, whatever, whatever. And that's who I went to in 2021 when I really started looking for funding for the 16-week startup. So
Yep.
Whipsy is beneficial in the same, as you said, the way you're able to leverage, or anybody should be able to. It is true. I do
Yep.
it now with certain funding that's out,
Yep.
depending on the organization. If they pay on time, then I'll refer people there. If they
Yep.
don't, like, don't
Yeah.
even use my name because I'm not fighting for money.
No,
Um,
exactly, exactly.
but literally, I'll say, you know, I can give you $10,000 worth of services, but you only have to do a little bit of legwork. Here's the application.
This is
Put me
it.
down. Here is the statement of work. Here's the budget. This is what I'm charging you. Send it in. Let me know what they say.
Yeah.
I do it all the time.
Yep. No, exactly. And that's the thing is like the reason I'm sharing that, I want to share that as part of this, is I always want to leave giving more value than coming in, right? I'm
Absolutely.
extremely grateful for the people that have helped me. Never changed, right? So, you know, you see people give like little comments like, "Hey, way to go," but you know they don't really mean it.
Oh,
But
just
they're
save it. Don't even
yeah,
say it.
save it, because I always used to be like, you know, I do wear my heart on my sleeve, and some days I'm down, right? And I go to these networking events, and like, Keith, you should always be happy and presenting the best version of
Oh,
yourself.
well, show me who the
Yeah,
hell is always happy, because I know he's
exactly,
not. And
exactly,
if I don't want to smile today, I'm not smiling today. I came in
exactly.
today because you don't know what's going on in my personal life, but I showed
Yep,
up today because I need to show up as an individual to get myself out of my
exactly.
rut. But do not tell me to smile. Oh,
Nope.
Lord.
Exactly. But that's the piece, right? And so
Yeah,
that part is what I try to model what I'm doing and be honest about it. Like you said,
always.
you know, you've been missing for 6 months. Where'd you go? I got into my head, unfortunately, and this is another thing I want to share.
True.
This is a revelation that I'm coming out of my head, but because I support so many people, asking for help is difficult, and it's funny because I tell everybody like, hey man, if you ask for help, then you come to a solution, right? But yeah, so instead of asking for help, unfortunately, I buried my head in the sand like I do every winter. I can't do winters here anymore, and I'm not going to.
Oh, my God. I know a lot of people
Can't
that
do it.
can.
Yeah, can't do it. My mom, actually, my birth mom, invited me to go to Mexico in February, and she's like, you could stay down there for like $1,200 a month. They got great Wi-Fi and everything. And I was like,
Listen,
what? Yeah,
that's a
I'm good.
vibe.
Yeah, and that's the benefit because I work from home, so I could do it. Uh, and then I also booked I'm speaking at Learning Disability Association of America's conference. We got selected out of
Wow,
225. It
congratulations.
was talking about our processes for post-secondary students. Again, never graduated university, but I'm speaking on this down in
Wow.
the States. So that's in Florida in the end of February as well. So I'm going to go to Mexico and then I'm going to go to Florida, still do my work, but I'm doing it from other places, and that's come again from that realizations like, hey, I can't do winters, and I know there's tons of us who can't. Why are you stuck here? It's like, if you go down there, say it costs you 5,000, that's one workshop. Right, you do one workshop. Now you paid for yourself to go away for for a thing, and that's the mindset
It's the
that
vibe. That is always my mindset.
yeah,
I go away in February of a year to Jamaica to see my fiance,
amazing.
and you know, I don't have to stress about going. It's you do one or two workshops. There it is. Like I'm good.
Yeah,
I just you have to put yourself in the position to be able to take care of yourself and your own well
this
being
is
and
it.
mental health too.
Yeah, and I know that the theme of these is around resilience. There's a lot of coaches out say ADHD is my superpower. It's not my superpower. Resilience and persistence are my
Oh yeah,
my
absolutely.
superpowers. 100%. I've been knocked down. I've almost gone out of business 3 times, and each time it happens, when I get these huge knocks, it's actually like a great thing because I get complacent, right? We all do. We get in our little
Yeah.
routine and our rut, and they're like, "Oh, this is good enough." But once you start to get into the good enough mindset, that's your sign that something's coming, right? And
Listen,
it's
it's the
always
whole
a sign.
solution.
You're getting too complacent, and it's like just recently happened again. And I was just saying, like, one of the things that's really helping me is I changed my diet. I know we talked about that too.
Yeah.
I changed my diet. I'm doing something called carnivore diet right now, which sounds bananas, but I eat steak, butter, eggs, bacon, and cheese in a bunch of different combinations. But like I was shooting TikTok videos a month ago, and if you look at my face, it's all puffy and wrinkled, and my eyes are popping out or whatever. And I'm looking at myself in the camera. I can't even believe it's the same
I know.
person. I
It's
mean,
the thing.
like
It's the thing.
I'm
I'm
like,
going through it too, and you look
yeah,
at yourself, and then you go back in pictures before, you're like, oh my
yeah.
God, why didn't no one ever tell me how big I was?
Exactly. Yeah, and so anyways, I've got a new clarity. My symptoms of ADHD, like the executive function stuff, is going away. I can think logically. Like I was addicted to sugar and carbs. There's no question. I'm a binge eater. That's another thing with ADHD. You could take uh, ADHD clinic, an eating disorder clinic, an addictions clinic, and jail, and just interswap all of us. We're all in
Oh
the
yeah,
same place, right?
that is so
Yeah,
true.
we're all these
So true.
impulsive people. But anyways, it's only been a month. I'm down 30 pounds. I'm thinking logically. I did get this like nuclear hit on one aspect of my business, but I haven't lost it. I'm kind of waiting for it to happen. I was like, I can't figure it out. Instead of in the past, I would have ate my feelings. I'm taking care of myself and moving forward, and that's another piece that I really haven't put a lot of focus on. And when I would used to do my workshops, I would do a thing on diet, but I was like, obviously doesn't that doesn't apply to me, and I move on immediately, right? And it's again because any of the stuff that I tried was quick fix, short term solution, and this one I've got a little community built. I've got my fiance got on board. She went from vegetarian to eating a little bit of everything when she met me, and now she's a carnivore too, right? And both of us are like,
Vegetarian carnivore.
yeah,
Okay.
carnivore. Anyways, I just wanted to make a little plug. It's kind of a recent thing, but it's also helped keep me on track, right? And not go crashing and burning like I had in the past. It's got me
Been there.
back up the roller coaster. That's why I use roller coaster on my logo. I hate being on them, but it's actually a metaphor, right? I used to
It's true though. Like the roller
I used to
coaster is
ride that.
real, And once
Yeah.
you get your health together, it kind of goes hand in hand with your mental health. What you put in your body goes to your mind. It is a thing. So I'm really, really happy that you're able to finally find yourself, Keith.
Yeah. And you will see me out and about and
Listen, we're coming up to
island.
conference season. All the
It
networking
is.
events start up in October, November, December
Exactly. Yeah, I'll be
in
out
Nova
and all.
Scotia. So
Yeah.
we're almost at the end of this, Keith, but I do want you to leave a few last words for any of our listeners or viewers um, who may be struggling,
Yeah.
who may be struggling with mental health, who haven't been diagnosed or who have been diagnosed, who have a support team but they're still struggling.
Hmm.
What message of encouragement can you offer them today?
The number one thing, and I have to practice what I preach, is when you start to go down that dip, right? Reach out. It's the network and the community around you that'll be there to support you. If you close the blinds, like I've done many times in my life, close the blinds, go
Not gonna
back to
work.
bed, nothing will ever change. You will not, you're basically self-inducing this, right? That crash to the bottom. And if you want to keep going, that's the one thing that I love about this community, especially the neurodivergent folks, because we do get it. We will be there to support you, right?
That's true.
And that's the one thing that is more important than anything else, regardless of sales figures, numbers, this, that, the next thing. It's the people that are around you that are
Yeah.
going to help you get you to the next level. And instead of ending up in the valley, reach out and somebody. Not everybody's going to listen, right? That's the thing.
Somebody will, though.
Some
Somebody will.
somebody will, and it's going to be one person that's going to listen. That's going to be that. Okay, well, I haven't thought about that, and then you're going to hit the next person. Like I'm sure if I would have called she would have been like, "Get your ass out of bed and come
I'd
see
be
me."
like, let's go
Yeah,
for a coffee. Let's
go
figure
for
this shit out.
coffee, and that and
Let's
that's
figure this shit out.
and that's the mutual thing. So it's the same for me, right? I started doing that more for what I'm really focusing on more now is less about like talking about the dive and saying, hey, I am struggling, but listening to what other people have done so they get
Yeah.
themselves out versus keeping to talk about how shitty things are. Because if you keep talking about how crap your life is and how
That's
miserable
how
things
it's
are,
going to
that's
perpetuate. It's going to
yeah,
keep being that way.
bring about
I
what you think
have
about. Yep.
I have literally deleted people off of my social media who
Yeah.
always talks about the
Exactly.
negativity of their life because I'm like, I don't want to wake up on a good Monday morning and see this shit every single
No,
week.
I'm the same. I'm the same. I'm not watching the news. I'm not getting sucked up on
Oh
all of
my
this stuff.
God, it drives me nuts,
It's
Keith.
yeah, life's too short, and life is a precious thing, right? And you don't if you get wrapped up in everybody else's business and wrapped up in the doomsday, because it's easy to do right now. That's all they're talking about on the news, right?
Well,
You
there was a
know?
lady. I just interviewed her. She was last week.
Yeah.
Nikki Clark,
Okay.
and she just launched a book, and it's called "I Can Care, but I Cannot Carry."
Yep.
You're gonna want to get that book, Keith, because that's what it talks about. I can
Yep.
care, but I cannot carry. Which
Yep.
means we're not gonna keep taking on your negative stuff and carrying your burdens. Like I can care about you, I can support you, but I can't take this on
No.
in my own mental health.
No. Exactly. Yeah. But I
Wow.
yeah, yeah. Just to wrap it up, I wanted to say too is like I am going through some stuff in my business at this point in time, and the cool thing is that when it happened, I did reach out. I didn't say style it, but I reached out and I was talking to mentors like Mary Jane Cops, for
Yeah.
example. We all know her, and my buddy Scott Furlot and Susan Ellery. All these people that I haven't talked to in years, but because I always showed up as my authentic self when I made the call, right? I don't reach out to them all the time, but I made the call and just say,
They
"Hey,
were like, ooh,
I, yeah." It wasn't like, "Hey, woe is me." It's like I'm struggling. I need to get
I
over the
need some
lump,
support.
and what would you do? And all of them came to the bat, and that was the thing, right? They wrote letters of support. They said anything you need, if you need to reach out, do it. And it wasn't like, well, I charge $1,000 an hour to do it. It's like I will help you, and the reciprocating part is going to come back, and that's how we all help each other, right? It's not.
We all become blessed when we do this.
We're all
You just
part of
said
the
to me earlier.
neurodiversity network. That's what it
Yeah,
is.
when
Yeah.
when you mentioned
Yeah.
earlier, oh T, I don't know how much you charge, but I need to meet with you, whatever. And I said I wouldn't charge you anything.
Yeah.
I get my blessings by doing the work and doing good
Yeah.
work and
And
creating
I'm the same.
impact. You may not
Yeah.
be a black woman, but you're a human being. And if
I'm a
you need
human
my
being.
support
Yeah.
in business, I'm gonna do
And
it.
it's
So
a win-win both ways, right? And that's the thing.
absolutely.
I have learned a lot off you, and I don't know how long you've been in business for now, but
For organization wise, 4 years, September 30th. But as
yeah.
a business owner, it would be going on 12.
Okay, so yeah, we're in the
Yeah.
same kind of boat, and that's the thing. You can always learn stuff from people around, and that's the piece that I got to keep reminding myself,
Your
right?
network
Where
is your net worth.
the network is the net worth. I'm stealing. No, I'm not going to steal that. I will quote you on that.
Yeah, like it's a thing.
Yeah.
Well, we are at the end. I could talk to Keith forever because he is that guy, you guys. But if you guys enjoyed today's segment, and I will be putting up Keith's contact information in the screen above, and also there was a couple of links in businesses that he shouted out that I'll be putting our links out to, especially with regards to funding and stuff like
Awesome.
that. But if you guys love what you heard today, you love what you've seen with me and Keith, make sure you jump over to our social media, our YouTube and our Spotify page, and subscribe and follow. And until next week, guys, enjoy your day, and I'll see you next Friday. And Keith, again, thank you for joining me on the Identity Shift.
Thank you so much. Really, really
You're
appreciate it.
welcome. Have a nice day, guys. Thank you for listening to Identity Shift. See everybody next week.